Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to attending our city council meeting tonight. We're going to have roll call. Mr. Fred Terrell, Mrs. Desiree David, Eddie Lowry, and Carol McWaters. We do have a quorum. So we're going to start out with having our prayer by Mr. McCandless, our school superintendent here at Cleveland ISD.
Good evening. Please stand. Bow your heads in prayer, please. Father, thank you so much for bringing this group together tonight, for guiding them here safely. Father, thank you for the leaders, this city council, who give of their time to do what is great and best for the city of Cleveland. Father, fill them with the wisdom and knowledge that they need each and every day to make those decisions that will honor you and be what is best for every citizen of this city. Father, it's not easy. Your guidance is much needed. Father, we need you now more than ever in these days, in these times, not only in Cleveland and the state of Texas, but across the nation. Father, thank you so much for the blessings you give all of us each and every day. We can never repay you for what you give us. All this we ask in your name, Father. Amen.
Amen. Let us recite our pledges together, please. The American flag first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. McCallum.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are now at public comments. Do we have any public comments? No public comments? We're going to go right into our presentations for our employees. We do have some other employees that we wanted to acknowledge before we give our 5 and 20 year. And that was a 1 year for James Belenovich, 2 years for Juanita Lyman, 3 years for Patrick Neal, also Cindy Hudman, 4 years for Jacob Watson, 5 years, that is Jeffrey Arnett, and we'll come back to that presentation, 6 years for Wendy Thorpes, also Jason Holder, 16 years for Hgac Hartness, 20 years for David Edwards, and 23 years for Deanna Prentice. So for the presentations, do we have Officer Arnett? He did not make it. And as we said, he has a 5-year presentation here. Sergeant Jeffrey Arnett, and that was our 5-year. We also have Sergeant David Edwards. Is he here?
Yes, ma'am.
Invite Sergeant Edwards up. Just a little something about Sergeant Edwards. He started as a reserve officer with the Cleveland Police Department and did about 9 months volunteering. His wife said he never came home, so she said, why don't you go ahead and fill in for a full-time position and apply? And he did. He's been here 20 years later, and I'd just like to congratulate him for all that he's done. He started off working the evening shift, and he worked his way up, and now he became the sergeant and has been the sergeant here for some time. He's always dedicated. He did find out something being the evening shift sergeant, that sometimes mornings come too. So if he gets the call in the last hour, sometimes it's 2 or 3 before he gets home instead of the 10 o'clock. But He did learn that as a supervisor, and we do appreciate what you do. He has a son that works up at Livingston PD, and he's shared a lot of knowledge with him, and he's groomed a lot of our younger officers that have come on board, and we appreciate you, David, so much. Thank you so much.
We want to thank Sergeant Edwards, and also we want to thank our officer Jeffrey Arnett in his absence.
May I say something about Jeffrey real quick,
Yes,
please, Madam Mayor? I'd just like to congratulate Officer Jeffrey Arnett. He's been with the department since 2017, 5 years. He's a young officer, but he's came on and done very well. About a week ago, he was across the street here at the Operation Refuge, and there was a business owner who saw someone on their surveillance camera in the back of the building and had entered the back gate and jumped over and opened the back door. Officer Arnett, around 2 a.m. in the morning, was able to respond with his fellow officer. He posted her around the back side of the building, and he went through the front side. And imagine this with Miss Frida, the preacher she is, she had her, I won't say she does carry it, but they were able to catch a burglar inside the building, and I want to honor him for that within the last week or so. He's a great officer.
Again, we want to thank all of our officers for all the protection they give us here in this city. Thank you again. We now have a presentation by Grant Works, Mr. Nick Fennon, and Mr. Reynolds, our acting city manager, is going to give us a little information as he comes forward.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Mr. Nick Fennon. About a week ago, I had a meeting with him, and I'm going to have him introduce the ladies that he has with him. But we had a real good meeting, and I want to emphasize, you're with who, sir?
Grant Works.
Okay. And
Inside joke.
yeah, it is. But I had a real good meeting with them, and I thought that we needed to have him here to give us a presentation, give us a kind of an update on what he does, to see what we might can do, or maybe in the future. But what I would like for you to introduce the ladies you have with you.
Sure, and I appreciate the invitation to be here. We've enjoyed meeting with staff, and yes, we'd like to be able to do more with the city of Cleveland. So much that the Director of Client Services, Kelly Odom, is here. She's one of the top individuals with the organization. And then our new, what I like to refer to as our regional rep, but actually client service manager that'll cover the entire Houston area, is Ashton Crow. She's also here, so she would be someone that hopefully could become quite familiar with the city of Cleveland in their future. Did you want to say anything else, too?
No, sir, I'm good, and I really appreciate you giving us your time.
Okay. Well, thank you again for your time. I am Nick Fine, as being introduced, and I'll get into just a brief information about myself here in a moment. Was told 5, I could stretch maybe to 10, maybe 10 minutes and 18 seconds or something, but I'm not saying that they were counting, but they made it clear it had to be a brief presentation. Normally, we go from this is some information about Grant Works. I've left this with your staff. We can get more of these or send it to you electronically, but I will not cover this. I thought I'd open it up and just start reading from page 1, but that won't happen tonight. But it will be a quick presentation. And with that, I'd like to start off with a quick joke. There's this preacher who got up in front of the pulpit, looked at his watch, took it off, sat it down, making sure he could clearly read the face of the watch. And out in the front row, just as he was starting his sermon, the little boy looked over and said, "Mama, what's that all about? Why did he do that?" And the mom looks over at the little boy, shakes her head and said, "For absolutely no reason at all." So, but I hope I'm not as bad as that preacher and will carry on with looking like I'm going to try and keep it brief. I hope I am able to. But Grant Works quickly was started by a single individual, Bruce Spitzingle, back in the 70s. He worked for the city of Texas City as their city planner and then moved on to Pasadena, where he worked in the planning department. And one of his primary jobs was doing grants. Well, he was so proficient and did it so well that other cities would call, get his advice, and there were others that talked to him about all the grants that he was doing and said, really, you could help a lot of cities if you go out on your own. So he did do that and actually found he could make a living at it, as well as serving those cities that were calling him and other cities too. So it was, with his background in city government, it was really something he took to heart, and he started that, and the company grew from that to nearly 400 employees today. My background is, as I've explained to a couple of you already, is that I started off after receiving my master's in public administration from Texas A&M University. Whoop, whoop. I went on and started in the city government. My public administration master's focused on local government, not on state, not on federal. And then I've spent the last almost 40 years in city government, being the city administrator for the city of League City, Lamarck, their city manager, assistant city manager in Pearland, most recently in Texas City. So I give you that background to let you know that city government and service is at my heart. And the reason I went to work for Grant Works is because that's embedded in their philosophy. They hire people who have in the past served cities in some capacity because their focus is cities and counties. And so they hire people from the GLO, Texas Department of Emergency Management, from the Department of Agriculture. These are people, HGAC, these are people who've actually worked in the grants with the cities. So they not only do they know the cities, they know how to procure, work, and deal in grants. They all specialize working with cities and the such. That's their philosophy, and that's why I went to work for them. And there's lots of opportunities to work for engineering firms and others too, but I came to work here because it was a choice that I wanted to do. That focus has made us the largest grant administrative services company in the state of Texas. As I said earlier, we're now up to nearly 400 employees. We, in this binder, we show all the counties and cities that we serve more than any other. We have gone national now. We're reaching out to, I believe it's 11 states, and we actually have contracts now in 3 other states. And we just started this in the last month or so, but that's how our reputation is already kind of taking us forward. So we're proud of that. Also, within our organization, as I said, we have a lot of specialists that have worked in these areas. Unlike a lot of our competitors where they say, hey, we're going to have one person assigned to you, you've got one person to call on. If you ever have a problem, they're going to be the ones that reach you and introduce you and bring you online with us, and then they will make the applications, they'll follow the project management, they'll keep up on updates, they will find out about new legislation and new grant opportunities, they'll talk to you about that, and then they'll do the follow-up and the follow-through. We are different than that. We do have a face, and that will be Ashton Crow for this area, so we have someone you can reach out to. But we specialize. We have a group that specializes just in ARPA, because early on, Bruce realized when COVID was going on, something was going to happen. So we had people in Washington that actually followed that legislation. So before it was even legislation, we knew what was going on. And we had started bringing staff on because we didn't want to learn at the expense of our clients. So we had a lot of new people specializing in ARPA versus once the laws and everything became a single written. Well, we already had people who knew what it was about, and we weren't trying to train our current staff on another new grant. And that brought in an influx, over 100 new employees. We're the largest grant administrator in the ARPA grant in the state of Texas. So that's been the philosophy. As I said, economic development is a new area that we're in, and that's even broadened to include, and I'll get to that in just a moment, under new legislation, which I want to talk 2 parts. A little bit about Grant Works, and then your opportunities in the future, whether you use this or not. So we have a section that's called Economic Development, focused, always great timing. I told my wife to do that. No, actually my wife's name is now Spanish. Sorry about that. But but we also have a CDBG group. We have a disaster recovery group, so we have the group that works with the Department of Agriculture, as well as the department that works with disaster recoveries. We have an application group, because applications are all different. We want to get experts in each of those applications to be able to make the best application for each of you. We have, in addition to the application group, we have a procurement group. We also have a project management group. So total we have 11 divisions so that we can serve you better. But again, even though you may be contacted by different individuals depending on where you are, these are experts in those areas. You can always call on me in this area or Ashton and say, hey, I've been called by so many people, I don't know what's going on. Ashton or I will get you the answers. So you don't have to necessarily deal with them except as you work through those things. So that's Grant Works in a nutshell. I see, and I'm so excited to see that you do have on your agenda authorization to go forward with the Hgac Mid-Mod. We were at the board meeting today. Things are pretty much in line. What minor changes they made really won't affect the city of Cleveland, but we do think you need to move forward because they want to run that program quickly. If you decide to self-administer that, that's fine too, but if you aren't out already in the process of trying to bring someone on board and have someone else do the application and then set up your project and get all that ready, I'm just saying you may miss out on an opportunity. As far as other future opportunities, and this is just generally then, there's always going to be some opportunities for the city of Cleveland. And the first are just those grants that are already common, that are out there. They may be periodic, they don't happen every year. Some we can kind of predict about when they would come, others we don't know. Texas Parks and Wildlife, typically in the fall. If we work with you and we find that you're working on a parks project, we might be able to work with you on that. CDBG, typically spring to middle of summer. We'll start working with you early on that and make sure you get that on. But then there's others such as your disaster recovery, your FEMA, your FMA, the flood mitigation. All those, of course, going to be dependent on when there's a storm or something happens, such as Harvey, Ike, some of the other things that we've seen here in the past that has affected this area. And we'd love to be able to work on those opportunities as they come about. And those happen quickly. They're going to come up, and then they start closing the doors as they have limited funds. Because of your size, you're low to moderate, as I already said, you're already in that kind of wheelhouse to start spending, and every year you have an opportunity to apply for your regular CDBG funds, because you're under 50,000, you're not in Entitlement City. It is competitive. Typically it would be every 2 to 3 years, because Hgac likes to spread it out, but you still have to have a competitive grant and have those out there. And that's where we can work with you. And sometimes you may be able to get one this year and then again next year, but typically it's going to be 2 to 3 years spread out. And then there are grants that we will advise you about, but we don't do. And Robert was at a meeting at Hgac. They actually have grants that they make available for public safety. We don't take those because they're no administration. And that's really where we do the work for you. As I said, we've got close to 400 experts that are out there to assist your finance director, your city secretary, your city manager, whomever, get the project done. Public works director will be heavily involved. So as I was saying, at Hgac, these grants are public safety, buy and invest, no administration in that. You put in an application, you get it, the police department gets the vest. So that came out, and that is something that, in talking earlier with Robert and Tara Lynn and with Leslie, we've made that aware of them. I don't know if you've been taking advantage of that. The police chief may know about those grants, but you have to attend the training in November, December in order to even be eligible to apply for those grants through Hgac. So those are some things that a lot of people don't know about, and they start trying to apply after the fact, realizing they're going to get turned down because they didn't attend the training. Then there's others that we may administer or work with you on, such as the FAST grant. Now, the main one that a lot of people, and you may have heard about this one, it's called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. This is a freebie, whether we get to work or not. $1.2 trillion has been put together in this bill to be spread out. Roughly 65% is already going to go to states that they'll use in various capacities, most likely a lot of their current grant programs or their own, within their own agencies to fund work that they're doing. But the remainder is going to go out over 17 different programs. And I don't want to go into detail of that. And that's something that we've been following. And as I said, we have this new economic development group that's really following a lot of the new federal legislation. We call it economic development because it really will affect cities and their ability to attract more businesses into your area. But as I was saying, as you can see, once you spread that out over 50 states, you may not be talking about huge amounts, but maybe 100 million within a state that could be spread out. It will be competitive. Most of them are not LMI, which is good news for a lot of cities. Not good news for you because you have a good LMI ratio, and now you're going to have to compete against cities that do not have it. But that's one of the areas where we'd like to work with you to put the best grant application forward on those type of things. And these years also, that $1.2 trillion is going to be spread out over 4 and 5 years, which means, again, as you start shrinking that down, you can see that means every year. You don't have $1.2 trillion every year, only divide that by 5 basically, and remember 65% is going to go to various states and such. But as I said, we have experts in the areas. We had experts up there with ARPA that made us one of the leaders. We hope this makes us one of the leaders here also when it comes to seeking, helping our current clients as well as new clients such as yourselves with getting grants for you. But again, Bruce's philosophy was when you're successful, we'll be successful. So we work with you to make sure that you get your grants. The money's not important to us. What's going to be important is to continue that business, because just like a car salesman, they can sell it for a lot of money and never see you again, or they can cut you a good deal and then keep working with you year after year in that repeat business. And that's how we like to do it. We want to build a relationship with you, and we want to be able to continue that repeat business. And we thank you for the opportunity tonight to speak. And I apologize, I probably went over the 10 minutes too. I didn't look at my watch like the preacher did at least. Thank you all. If you have any questions, I'll make myself available unless you want to do that at this moment.
Okay, do we have any questions? We can do this now. Do we have any questions from the council at this time?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Do not forget Bill. Do not forget HGAC. Little nuggets that we don't work on, or we will work on the bill, but HGAC is a good way to find some funds to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that great information. I think we would benefit from having a grant writer locally with us. So thank you again. Now we're going to have item number 6, presentation on the status of the municipal airport project with the KSA engineers, and Mr. Reynolds, our intern, is going to give us a little highlights before they come forward.
You know, we've been talking about for a while, and it went out for bid, the airport, and being the lighting at the airport, some asphalt to be done at the airport. And, you know, I've been visiting for the past couple of weeks with Steve Hart with TxDOT Aviation in Austin, and then also along with Mr. Craig Claremont. He's with the engineer of KSA that, you know, we'll be doing this project. And, you know, it kind of got delayed, but we've had several meetings in the past 2 weeks, and I thought it would be good that, you know, Ms. Claremont come in, and we had a long discussion again Friday, but to come in tonight and give council and everyone an update on what's going on. Thank you for coming.
Robert, I do appreciate the invitation and working with you and Clay together on the airport project. I'm not here to sell anything on KSA engineers. I'm here just to kind of give an update on the project. But I'd like to start with a little bit of history on it. When the advertisement went out for consultant selection, you know, KSA competed for that. We're very happy for being selected for that project. We have worked with Clay in the past on airport projects, and we enjoy working for the city of Cleveland. During the preliminary engineering phase of this project, when we were looking at the scope that TxDOT Aviation set for the project, our initial cost estimate showed that the project was very grossly underfunded. And so as part of that process, we worked with TxDOT to find additional money for this project because it wasn't going to go forward without the extra money. And as some of you may know, TxDOT came up with another $1 million to put towards this project without requiring any local match, which we thought was a really, really good thing for the project. And so as we moved into the bid phase of this project after we finished the final design, for the last several months we've been going through quite a bit of inflation in that. And so when the bids came in on the project, they did come in over budget. There was a couple other anomalies in the bidder's proposal that they gave, and ultimately TxDOT decided that it was not awardable due to the funding and bid anomalies. So the project was decided to rebid. One of the things that we had been encouraging TxDOT all along was to look at the possibility of splitting this project up into two different parts. There's two distinct components to it. There's an electrical component to fix the airport lighting, which is in a great need, and then there's a portion to fix some of the taxiway pavement. In our conversations with the contracting community, there's a lot of smaller contractors that were struggling with, like electrical contractors who weren't familiar with the paving aspect, didn't really know how to go about trying to find subcontractors to do the paving. And the same thing with some of your smaller paving contractors, not knowing anything about airfield electrical. And we think that that could have been one of the contributing factors to the low bidder turnout when the project came out. Because there's a lot of contractors, electrical contractors, that didn't want to take on $1 million worth of paving work that they weren't familiar with. And so, as Robert mentioned, there's been quite a few discussions going back and forth between not only us and TxDOT, but also between us and the city in regards to how can we package this project so that we have the greatest opportunity to move forward with it, especially for the lighting. And we were finally able to get TxDOT to agree to allow us to split this project up a little bit. We can't eliminate one item or the other, but we are going to move forward with all of the electrical items as a base bid on this project, and then bid the paving portion as an alternate. So that if for some reason the bids come in really high again, we can still move forward with the electrical portion and not award the paving if that's what's deemed necessary. And so we're excited about moving forward finally. There has been a couple of delays, but we're very optimistic that we're going to receive better bids this time around. So that's kind of an update where we are now. Once the bids are received and an award is being made, about 2 months for TxDOT to get contracts with the contractor, and then we'll start construction. It'll be late fall, but the electrical items can be done through the cooler and wetter months. The paving may have to wait till spring if it's awarded, but we're comfortable that within a couple of months we'll be moving forward with the project.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the council? We appreciate those updates, and this is an ongoing project, and we looking forward to getting it done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, if you have a copy of the agenda, you notice our next line is discussion and action items. But we have 7 through 12. We're going to sort of combine those as a consent, because what we're doing now is sort of playing catch up. We hadn't approved any of these minutes. So if nobody have questions on any of these minutes from June 21st up until July 26th, if there's no questions, can I get a motion by the council?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda on the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussions? All in favor? The motion passes. Our next item, this is going to be under discussion and action item, is number 13. Discuss, consider, and take action on ordinance number 1302-220816-1, an ordinance of the City of Cleveland, Texas, authorizing the suspension of the effective date for an additional 90 days beyond the August 5th of 2022 effective date proposed by the Energy Texas Incorporation in connection with its rates increase application entitled Application of the Energy. This is filed on July 1st of 2022. Authorizing participation with the Energy Texas Incorporation Service Area Cities Steering Committee hiring of experts. Authorizing the city's participation to the full extent permitted by the law of the Public Utility Commission of Texas. Requiring reimbursement of municipal rates case expenses, finding that the meeting complies with the Open Meeting Acts, making other findings and provisions related to the subject and declaring an effective date. And this is something I think we discussed at our last city council meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm just really looking at Jennifer. Has this already been approved at the July 26th meeting? Okay. So,
I thought it had, yes.
yeah. So I don't think there's anything else to be done.
Okay. So we
Unless you just got a desire to talk about it.
Okay. So we move forward with this findings. We don't need to make a motion or anything.
No.
Because it was already.
It's already been done, is my understanding. I was not there. It was a special
Okay.
meeting July 26th, is my understanding.
It has been, it's in the minutes.
Okay. So we'll move to our next item. Discuss, consider, and take action on agreement by and among the City of Cleveland, Texas, Reinvestment Zone Number 2, Cleveland, Texas, and Cleveland Municipal Utility District Number 1.
Mayor, now that I'm knowledgeable about, that is, my understanding is, in 2018, really, all this was, the foundation was formed for this development, including formation of the TERS 2 and MUD 1, and there was even some special legislation adopted that would allow the city, rather than reimbursing the developer directly, to reimburse the municipal utility district for some public infrastructure. And there were a series of agreements relating to this whole development. And so now the time has come for the tri-party agreement, because reimbursement is going to occur through the TERS the city formed to the MUD and not to the developer. And that's what this does. It's a tri-party agreement. If you choose to adopt it tonight, my recommendation after talking to Laura Davies, the attorney for the MUD, is that you adopt it subject to approval of the TERS board. She was able to get the MUD board to meet and approve it, but she was not able to get the TERS board to approve it yet. So my recommendation is, if you want to adopt it, just make it subject first to the, conditioned upon the TERS board approving it. This, just for your information, the way the reimbursement is going to work is this development has completed essentially what I would call phase 1 of its development, and the public infrastructure relating to phase 1 of the development has been completed. And there are TERS funds. We reached out to your consultant, and there are some TERS funds that are eligible to start reimbursing the MUD, the MUD, but only to the degree that it covers their costs for the public infrastructure constructed to date. So we won't be reimbursing them until the infrastructure is built first.
So basically, if we adopt it, these funds will be available to us.
Yes, and yes, my understanding is there.
There's 26,000.
My understanding there are some funds available, and it's relatively small right now. It's $26,888 in in the TERS fund, but each year there'll be more. So, but it's begun, so I'm gonna let if you wanna hear from your Director of Finance, she can speak more on it.
I don't really know, this was done prior to me, but there's actually 26,888 in the account. That's pretty much what I know. So now we're not gonna reimburse the church, we're gonna reimburse the mud.
The TERS will be reimbursing the mud, not the developer.
So,
And I'm
oh,
sorry.
no, that's okay, go ahead.
And we're really just now getting everything set up. The central appraisal districts have had to coordinate, and they've had to, it's been a bit of a chore to get them to coordinate, and then there has to be an account set up and so on. But yes, it is now ready to be implemented and to start payment should you approve this agreement.
So is this something the council needs to get more information on, or you want to just go ahead and adopt this?
Basically, TERS, normally they would be the one that would receive the money and then they would pay the mud district, is that correct?
And that is what's happening here.
Right.
When I say the city, since the city formed the TERS, I may be loosely saying the city, and I probably more properly a couple times should have said the TERS.
Okay. Basically, it's not abnormal as to what's going on. Basically, those that built the construction part of it is being refunded.
Right,
Okay.
yes.
Throughout the year.
Per your agreement that you entered into, a while back.
And we reimburse them 70%.
When will the project be finished?
Yeah, the sewer plant's not done yet, and we haven't checked off the lift station yet as well, but that's the only thing I know.
My understanding, talking to the attorney for the mud, was there, and if you recall, you authorized additional connections. There's 250 homes.
Right.
She told me ultimate development would be 1,000 homes. So that kind of tells you where they're at in their phasing.
Okay, so,
So if you want to approve, I would make a legal recommendation to approve the condition upon the approval of this agreement by the TERS board.
can we get a,
I'll make a motion that we follow through with this as far as the reimbursement on the TERS, as far as the board is concerned with the TERS.
Yes.
okay, do I get a second?
Second.
Any other discussions? All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we are now at item 15. Discussion, consider and take action on in-kind use of the Cleveland Municipal Park by 5th Annual Play for Cade fundraiser, co-ed softball tournament. This is Ashley. Oh, sorry.
So Play for Cade has been taking place for the last 4 years. They have always submitted a letter, and we do have Cade's mom here with us today. This is Courtney Contreras. And they have been utilizing our municipal park by doing a fundraiser to be put back into the community. And I'll just go over pretty much what Play for Cade. So Play for Cade Foundation is a 501c3 in good standing. Play for Cade was created to honor the beautiful life that Cade Contreras lived. He loved all sports and loved people. Cade pretty much was at all the fields. Baseball, football, he was there. Through this organization, they have created to promote blood donation, organ donation, youth sports, education, and pretty much just community involvement. So we received a letter from Play for Cade from Courtney in reference to their annual tournament that they have, and it's a co-ed softball tournament. and they are requesting the use of the municipal park. They are requesting the use as they have in prior years that has been given to them for that use for the park. They will be utilizing this on Friday, October the 7th, and Saturday, October the 8th. They're inviting between 14 to 16 co-ed teams to play in the tournament, and pretty much the request is 4 fields, concession, and lights for both days. So pretty much we are proposing, as in years before, that we utilize the fields as an in-kind or donation to them. I know that they also do, as far as like other things at the park, I know y'all do the vendors, and you do the kids' activities and things like that as well at this event. So it is a community event that brings out the kids and their families. One of the things too, they do ask for sponsorship. So this could be a way that the city sponsors by donating the fields for them to use, as, like I said, we've been doing for many years. So, but it's in you guys' hands, so just let me know what you want to do.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but this is a very nice event, very well done,
Yes.
and we're happy to be able to help you do it, but it would be nice if maybe you could just treat us as one of your sponsors for it, but you do a great job of this.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Ashley, what do they do with their funds, how they use their funds, you know?
I can definitely let Courtney come up and speak on the actual Play for Cake Foundation. Courtney.
So our funds go directly back into our community, not just in Cleveland, but surrounding communities as well. We sponsor kids in our community and surrounding communities to play youth sports. They just apply for a scholarship, and we make that payment directly to the organization that they're playing for. We donate to Work and Donation to help make that aware. We give scholarships to seniors. We did 2 Tarkington and 2 Cleveland this past year. We did a school supply drive at the city of Cleveland this year, and yes, we sponsored some high school athletes this past season for cleats and just whatever I need. We've been doing it since January of 2018, and when we see a need in the community, we just try to fill that need. And just kind of helps remember my baby.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so,
I make a motion that we approve this and allow this tournament to be played this year.
a second? Okay, any other questions? Let's go. All in favor? The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, item number 16, I think it's related to the same thing. Discussion, consider and take action on the city facility in-kind use policy. And this was something I think we discussed also at one of our last meetings.
Yes. So that's my reason for bringing it back. I was asked a few council meetings back if we would address the facility in-kind facility in-kind use. Pretty much what was discussed, was possibly proposing a nonprofit rental rate. I understand that the biggest issue was that we're a business and we have to make the revenue. We still have employees that have to be paid, lights turned on, bills and water and things like that. And it wasn't just requested for Civic Center, but for Stansel as well as the municipal park. Pretty much what we are proposing is just a nonprofit rate, and in your packet, you should have received what that proposal was. Pretty much, the proposed nonprofit Civic Center rental rates will be at the suggested 25% discount to all those that are nonprofits, as well as they would have to show proof of their nonprofit, their IRS certificate with good standing, in order for us to approve it, to move forward. For the Stansel as well, we looked at doing a 20% discounted rate. Those fees are lower, so that's why we went with the 20% discounted rate. And that would be the same thing as far as the criteria. They would have to show proof of their IRS standing with their certificate. The proposed nonprofit rental rate policy, and I'll just read what we have. In order to request usage of a city rental facility as a discounted rental rate, you must have an IRS certificate showing proof of your current nonprofit status. The request will not include any added amenities such as, but not limited to, staff setup, staff breakdown, staff cleanup, kitchen, stage, microphone, podium, projector, day before setup, extra tables, chairs, and rectangle tables, or prior field prep. And this would just be at the municipal park because we do have a nonprofit rate for that as well. And then chalking of the fields would be the responsibility of the renter. We do provide the chalk liner. We do provide that. If they do not meet the reference criteria above but can show proof of an overall benefit to the community that warrants a discounted rental rate, the request will be reviewed by City Council for consideration, and then they can be contacted within 10 business days of a denial or an approval. So that is what the proposed is for Stansel Civic, and like I said, we already have it set for the municipal park. And I did include that in the packet.
Okay, so this is the one in place now.
This is,
This
this is what we're proposing,
Okay.
yes,
Could I make a suggestion?
yes.
You have down here, they're gonna be notified within 10 business days of the request. You may not have time enough to get with council.
Okay,
So I would word that, just that part right there, as soon as possible, or something to that effect.
okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When people rent our facilities like the municipal park,
Yes, sir.
and I saw you had a form in here, a disclaimer, to hold the city harmless. So basically, there's signing up, does the organization sign, or does each player have to sign that?
We have the organization sign up,
Okay.
yes.
So you can make that clear.
Do you have any other questions? So do we need to, as that suggestion, do we need the,
Mayor Pro Tem, if you like, you can choose to make a recommendation to go out of order and go through your items as you so choose. Or is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about item 8?
Well,
Or
the
7? I'm
suggestion
sorry,
that- yeah.
my apologies.
it's okay.
So what's the proposed change?
We're proposing
Take
in-kind
bids.
policy to a proposed nonprofit
Remove the- Yes.
rentatory.
The motion would be to approve the policy with the exception
As soon as
change
possible.
of the 10 days.
To be effective, yes. Starting.
So do I have a motion to set this policy with those changes?
Yes, ma'am, I'll make a motion, we accept.
I'll second.
Any other discussions? All in favor? Your motion passes to put this policy in place. Those changes. Thank you, Ms. Russo. Item number 17. Item number 17 is to discuss and consider take action authorizing procurement of administration engineering services for the community development block grant, regional COG method of distribution administered through the Texas General Law Office for the city of Cleveland. Mr. Renner is going to give us a little insight on that as well.
I want to comment on this. This is a original mitigation program that's through the Texas General Land Office, and it's funds that, and it's under the MOD. And two, I'm gonna let, I mean, something we need to look at and see maybe adopt, but I'm Miss Leslie, she has a little information on this. You make a little comment on that. I mean, what we need to do on that. You know what,
I know that we,
I mean,
we got awarded 1.5, almost 1.5, and we already sent it out. We got the mayor's signature, and now we're having to move on it. Do you know?
this has something also too, it's by the, regions impacted by Harvey. Now, and Nick Bynum knows about this, and he can just make comments, kind of help on the inside of this.
And I'll be briefer than I was earlier, if you don't mind, but MITMOD is based on Harvey mitigation, meaning that any project you put forward somehow has to show how it would mitigate the damages and those things that you suffered during Harvey. As Leslie pointed out, the city of Cleveland has been allocated $1.498, nearly $1.5 million. However, unlike ARPA, it's not money that's just given to you. You still have to make application, you have to show your project or projects, and they have to meet the criteria that are set out under the rules and guidelines that HGAC has set as far as priorities, and the GLO has set and established and approved. HGAC finalized theirs today, final approval will take place. Nothing that should really impact you going forward. However, of importance is out of that $1.5 million that you already received, at least 50% of those funds have to go to low and moderate targeted areas that have a ratio of at least 51%, which isn't hard. Overall, the city of Cleveland is at roughly 71%. So you could probably even go citywide and meet this criteria, but that's something you want to be careful on, because if it looks as if you're not serving the entire and you're serving targeted areas, then you have to meet that. What you're doing tonight is not obligating any funds to any agency or anything. You're just saying that you want to take a look at proposals from groups like ourselves and others, and there'll be a formal procurement that you'll have to meet to make sure you include that, in which we would love to submit some, as I'm sure several others will. You can review them and then just say, nope, and the only money you'll be out will be 2 ads you have to place in a newspaper. Other than that, there's no obligation at this point. But the benefit is, as I mentioned briefly earlier, is once this process kicks off, which we anticipate to be here in September, they want to move quickly. We don't think it's a realistic time frame. They want not only your application in, your application approved, they want you under contract with your engineers, your contractors, everybody else to do the project by January. We don't think that's going to happen. We think they're going to have to extend that. But on the outside chance, you want to move quickly. So anyway, I hope that answers questions. If you have any others.
What all can you use the funds for?
Okay, that is some, we can't get into details with you tonight. And if we were hired, we'd like to kind of express, after we learn a little bit more about what your needs are, what we think are eligible. One of the things that we like to do is we like to investigate and make sure, so we just don't put out an application where you are going to get turned down. So we'll work with the agencies. In this case, GLO, we feel we know some people there, so we will probably be able to work. But primarily, it's going to be water, sewer, drainage, street. Those are going to be the primary ones that have been affected by your party.
Nick, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
If we are awarded this, and we also get you guys to help us with it, y'all get a percentage of it?
That would come out in the contract at the time, and I'm not at liberty to discuss what that is, but it's typically a percent of the entire award. So out of the 1.5, you would not have to pay that. We don't charge an application fee for this grant and many of our grants that we do. If we are chosen, then under the percentage that we would charge you for the administration, that's all we expect. So the applications are free. If you don't get the grant or something should happen, it's no loss to you. In this particular one, you should get the grant as long as you do it appropriately. But yes, it would be a percentage of the overall. And we are competitive. What we have found, we're usually in line or lower than the competitors.
Well, being that y'all are new to us, and this would be the first time for us, maybe pro bono.
Maybe not. No, I think a lot of it.
I'll second that. Can we go back?
I would say, Nick, who are you with?
I think I spoke too long, and Brandworks, I think I was formerly with Brandworks.
So do we need a motion on this, Mayor?
I got a quick question. Is this separate from the funding that was allowed about 2 weeks ago? I think it's Houston, Galveston area, and Liberty County got 21.3 million. Is this separate from that?
No, it's all the same.
It's the same location,
It
but
is the
separate
same.
grant.
If you're talking, yes, Liberty County recently had something in which they just approved the same thing that you're going to be doing tonight moving forward. In fact, actually, no, we were approved to do Liberty County, their Midmont, correct?
They haven't awarded yet.
Oh, they haven't.
They're in their work.
Okay, yeah, but yes, but a number of counties and other cities also are eligible for certain allotments based on the HARP.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve basically the grant for applying for the grant.
The second. Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Larry and a second by Ms. McWaters. Is there any other discussions? Questions? All in favor? The motion passes. Okay, item 18, I think we're gonna put this is gonna be a executive session item?
Should be.
Yes, so we're gonna put this at the bottom, so we're gonna go to item 19. Discussion regarding the current RFQs, TCEQ permit, the 12-inch water line, and the general engineering. And Mr. Reynolds is going to give us some insights on that.
And Ms. Clay, you know, we have gone through the RFQs in the process of making our selections and the scoring of who would be our engineer for the 12-inch water line, general engineering, and the TCEQ permits. Now, this is just giving council, everyone an update. We're still in the, we gotta get the agreements and what the agreements will be from the selected ones we selected. And then once we do this, everything's finalized and we bring it back to council for approval. But just let y'all update on that, where we're at on it, so. And then that one's
We have the TCEQ.
approved. I mean, right. And on the TCEQ, that, I think we need, I think council needs to go ahead and select that one because we need to get this one finalized, a permit review, need to get this done, submitted. So I think you need to make a motion,
You recommend?
yeah, on that one.
Okay, so do we have a motion to,
It's not calling for a motion on 19.
Yeah, it's not,
This-
not only that,
this is,
I don't think until we finalize that, we can't, until we can't do that.
We can go ahead and approve who, the RFQs who'll be selected, can't we?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we can do that, but
But until we get that back, you can't make a motion.
Well, it looks like you have a historic habit of saying discuss and take action, and this is just a discussion
discussion.
item.
Right.
So-
We can't until,
No
so
motion
we can't
required.
take action until
No formal
later
action.
notice, so we don't need a motion on this, at this time. Item, 19?
Yes.
I mean, 20.
20.
Discussion regarding a review process of the city's boards, committees, and commissions. And this is, Mr. Laurie.
Yes, ma'am. We have a number of boards, and we have a number of people on these boards. I'm not going to read them or read off the names, and everybody's got a copy of them. But what I wanted to do is bring this to the council, and that we need to start looking at these. We have people and boards that have not met. And so in order for us to get to a process of selecting these, I wanted to bring it to the council, that y'all have them. So they're in your possession now. And I welcome any comments that y'all might have, but just want y'all aware that we've got boards that are not functioning. So,
And probably people that are no longer
yes,
around.
yes, yes, we have some that have moved out of town, no longer even attend these boards, so.
We had a question earlier, we discussed this, that, is there any difference in whether it be a committee or commission? This is a question for their attorney.
No,
It's same.
right, it's whatever your vocabulary is here. It sounds like it's a subset of council and/or council with other people in the community.
Okay, I think this is something that we do need to look into, and even while reviewing this, and if you have someone that you might, some of these that you want to eliminate, or members that you might want to replace, to just consider or try and find someone to take those positions.
I would like to kind of organize this a little bit different than we've done in the past. Used to, if somebody would recommend somebody and would do it, sometimes they didn't contact that person. So I'd like to suggest that we do a, kind of like an application, that you put out the person's name, that we'll fill it out. It'd be the name, maybe some background on who they are, what they might, committee they want to serve on, and what they can bring to the committee. And that's something we have to work on, but I think that's a start.
I have an application template that I could have for y'all to approve.
I think this is, and I do think this is something that we had already put in place. Carolyn, I mean, Ms. McWater, don't you remember this?
I think we did.
When Bobby was here?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, there's an application, there's a board application on our website.
Yeah, we have one already.
Ms. Clay, we did it for EDC.
Okay.
I was
Okay,
president of EDC and I've never seen one.
So we can use that,
Well, I have some in my possession. I have some applications that were turned in to EDC.
so my recommendation would be to maybe get that application and to review it to see if that's something that we can use for this. So this is not an action item either, so that's what I would recommend that we do. Any other questions?
Well, it says discuss regarding a review process. We talked about the application. When do we want to do this? Next meeting? Have it before our next,
You talking about the application, Fred?
with that and what committees that may no longer be needed.
Yeah, I think we can put it back on there and just leave it as a discussion item.
I think there's one committee here that I don't think they've ever met.
Yeah, we have some that have not met. There's some people on here that might be coming back, so we've got 10. It's just FYI, is the reason I brought it before council.
So we might can bring it back to the council, put it on the agenda. By that time, we should have saw that application, and any other questions you want to add to this, we can do that and move forward with it. Okay, any other questions or comments? I don't mind that. She's asking if we would like for her to go and contact these people to see if they're still on these committees or want to continue to serve on these committees.
I don't know, it might be more appropriate to contact the leadership, the chairman or the president of each one, and then let them ask, find out from their.
Okay, so we'll do
Put
that.
that on your phone.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm sure there's more valuable things to be done.
thank you. So now we are, if there's no other questions, concerns, comments, if there's no other questions, we're gonna go to item number 21. Discussion regarding the city-owned lot at the corner of West Hanson and South San Jacinto Street. And Mr. Rendon is going to give us highlights on this.
This corner lot at West Hanson and San Jacinto Street, that is the lot where the old fire station was. It was tore down. And the reason I want to put this on the agenda is to get the council to think about it and discuss it, because it is a city-owned lot. EDC had been talking about utilizing this lot and kind of turning it into, and I call it a pilot park. We're doing another park. It's going to be utilized for Christmas decorations. The chamber is involved, they got involved in it as well, Ms. Broussard and the city. But we're wanting to do lighting out there. EDC had mentioned about doing, and possibly the apron lights that we're doing on North and South Travis, putting lights there. But before we move forward, we need to get the city to think about, we want to allow us to do that. So it's something I want to bring up as a discussion item, see what y'all like to do. And I also want to bring up the food truck fusion has been moved over there. And I even like Miss Ashley Broussard to make a comment on that, but since it's moved from over here off Peach Street, the difference. But I'd like to see us turn that corner lot into a park and allow EDC to start working with that. But it's something I just wanted to open as a discussion.
Could we still use it for our food trucks even though we do that?
Yes, ma'am. And
'Cause that's,
we'll have to design it where, and Miss Ashley, I want you to make a comment on this, because right now the trucks are parking on there somewhat, but once we start doing lighting and decorate, doing things over there, we'll put tables, it may change the parking somewhat, but we'll have to figure out how that fit. You wanna make a comment?
Pretty much, yes, we are utilizing it as, our food truck fusion, spot. It does actually give us a better visibility for our trucks. It has been awesome. I think the trucks like being there, because they are visible, they are making sales, they are, able to come out and make a profit. I know that the discussion was to kind of build that as a little pocket park and possibly have some tables and things that are actually fixed there, for people to, walk downtown and sit and engage and have just an area of sitting. So I do hope that it does become a little pocket park, should I say, and allows for us to decorate, throughout the year or have different little engagements there throughout the year. So it has worked, and like I said, we're extending the food trucks through November. So it works. It's a great move. It's a good thing.
Are we talking aesthetically, putting down pavers, putting up some type of antique lighting or something? What are we gonna do with this part?
I do know that in talking to Brian Garcia, he did say that pretty much lighting and whatever we decide to put there, whether it be electrical hookups, some type of drop pole with electrical hookups for, let's say if we have a band that wants to be out there on like a little stage. He did say that pretty much for the city, we would just have to call Entergy and give them the location and have them come out, and we can pretty much start that, having some type of lighting.
But I'm referring to the look of the park.
I think it's something that we would have to sit down and kind of look at and design, whether it's gonna be, paved, some grass, pebble stones, something.
And I guess this is why, Mr. Reynolds is asking, the city to go ahead and make this agreement, but I'm gonna ask the attorney, if we do this, would we have to impose a contract or agreement or something to say that we can utilize this as a pilot park, or
Well,
how do we authorize,
A contract with who, Ms. Clay, on our
well,
property?
that's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Because if we're gonna put lightings there, I mean, it's just a city
On
lot.
property, yeah.
it's, no, you don't need a contract. The concern is if you're gonna designate it as a park, you need to understand what that means. And what that means is you can't use it for anything else without an election.
Okay.
So, in order to maintain flexibility, it's possible you think about designating it as a municipal amenity of some kind, but not necessarily a park, unless you want it to be a park. But once it's a park, remember, it will always be a park.
I think that was just a temporary name, that you want to sort of broaden it out so you can do other things.
It's something, unless you have something very specific in mind, you might want to consider maintaining flexibility until you know more specifically longer term. I mean, maybe you want another fire station there one day or something. I mean, I don't know that, but I'm just saying you could find another municipal need or something. But having said that, there's nothing wrong in using the property as described, and describing it.
Because they mentioned tables, and some of these tables or chairs would be sort of like a permanent fixture. So that was, I guess that was one of the reasons why.
And that's why it'll mess up the food trucks.
Yes.
Anything permanent going in there will mess
Sorry.
that up.
You do have that grassy area that we have been utilizing as like a little picnic area. So, the trucks have been parking pretty much like on the outer pavements area. So it does work for us, and we're hauling the stuff back
I
and
know,
forth.
yeah.
That's the only thing. So, but I do, Cody did let us know that, Henderson Electric all they have to do is just drop a pole, for us for the electrical, and Entergy can come in and place lighting. But it would just depend on if that's the type of lighting we're wanting.
I have a
We
question.
will, go
I
ahead.
got a quick question. Is there a possibility that we could close off one of the roads or the railroad track and also maybe use the grassy area there next to the cemetery across the street? Is that?
So the crossing is being closed. It's actually closed. And the adjacent property, we do
Across-
not, yes,
across
we do
the
not
street?
own that.
That's not on.
But that's not city.
What would it take to buy it?
No, that I don't.
Do we know who owns the property?
I don't know. We did talk about, and I hear you saying, we did talk about possibly during times when we do have events there, that we just come and maybe ask for a temporary closing or a textile approval to close when there are events there. So right now, we're the last Thursday of every month for Food Truck Fusion. And we do have people that cross there.
The food truck fusion used to be over Stansel Park.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we have better response with it where it is going over to this
Oh,
location.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
even though back at Stansel Park, we have room for many trucks and lots of parking, we'll be limited over here at this place, wouldn't we?
As far as the trucks and them being able to come and make a profit, our max would be the 4 anyway, because if you have more than, let's say, the 4 trucks, sometimes it doesn't do well. You may have some trucks that are just sitting there.
And how do you limit it to 4?
First,
come?
yes, sir. First serve, first come, yes. And like, our next one come August, we have 4 trucks that are already ready to go. And we've even booked out till November.
When you mentioned earlier, drop electrical pole, I'd like to see something that looks nicer than
Yes.
than a pole that we're thinking. I'd like to see something maybe underground or a pedestal for it.
Okay, yes, sir.
Something other than just, we think of a pole.
Electrical pole, yes, sir.
I just think this needs to be further discussed another time, a little longer. Think about it.
Yeah, and we did meet with Energy about some decorative type lights. There has been a discussion, but nothing finalized, so.
And we can look at other, like, little small pocket parks and bring that back to council if you like.
Okay, when we get more information on this as well, we can also put this on the agenda once again. So, as I think we are now at our executive session, as Mayor Pro Tem, I hereby advise you that we are going into executive session pursuant to sections 551.074, personnel matters of the Texas Open Meetings Act, to discuss staffing requirements and city manager. Today is the 16th of August, 2022, and the time to begin this executive session will begin now, 7:20. We are now returning from our executive session. $7:58. We did not have any actions from my executive session, but our last agenda item, this is, we have item 19. This is in reference to the RFQ, so we have slides. Mr. Reynolds is going to give us
Yeah, we're just going to jump back to that line item but I know we have Mr. Hector Forte that's with Line Engineering. He brought two gentlemen, but I did want to recognize them for coming tonight, and I really appreciate that. But I wanted to introduce him and him introduce the gentleman he brought, and I want to thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for staying.
This is kind of emotional for me. I started here 27 years ago, different council. However, I do know many of the people here. It's great to see the staff, probably the best staff I've had in 20-something years in 41 cities. Daryl, you and I went to help together. You came back, and I appreciate your help. I am the public relations officer for Lyle Engineering, a company that has half of the start right here in Cleveland, Texas. You remember the Rogers family? Well, John Lyle married Janice Rogers, who was from Cleveland. She graduated from Cleveland High, I believe, in 1973 or 74, 75. Ms. Waters, you remember more or less?
I'm not sure which year she graduated. I'm not sure about that.
So we are very excited to come back and try to work and help with the growth of the city of Cleveland. I appreciate the fact that you allow us to stay at time. I'd like to introduce the two engineers that will be working with the city staff. We do have a department within Lyle Engineering that is similar to what we have in the city, the Public Works Department. And that department is chair, is directed by Travis Walker, an Aggie. And he also has a number of engineers working with him, but Blake Behringer will be assigned to this particular project. Travis?
Thank you, Hector. So, as Hector said, my name is Travis Walker. I've been full-time with Lyle Engineering for a little over 9 years now. If you count interning, it's been about 14 years. So if you do your math, I did take 5 years to graduate A&M. I loved it that much, I call it the victory lap. So anyways, in that 5th year, I did meet my wife, and so I think it was, I don't know, maybe God's plans for me to take that extra year. I don't know. But anyways, it's an honor for us to be here. Lyle just wants to have an opportunity to partner with the city to help us. Y'all are very well aware of the incredible growth and development that's been just flooding to this area, and we just love to have the opportunity to be able to partner with Cleveland and try and help to work with some of that growth and help the city to be able to thrive with us coming on. I know there's a whole lot of stuff that's being thrown at the city council and the city staff. I would just be honored to have that opportunity to be able to help serve alongside the city of Cleveland and start a partnership that hopefully can continue for a long time as Cleveland's continuing to develop and grow and boom. And then Blake Behringer, he's one of our other engineers in our Public Works Department, and kind of my right-hand man that kind of follows me around, helps me out with things, and he's doing a lot of work up in San Jacinto County and kind of out this direction, and so you'll likely be seeing either Blake or I or both of us at council meetings for times to come.
Yep. Good to meet you. Like they said, we're really looking forward to the potential of working alongside of y'all. I really enjoyed meeting y'all today and look forward to meeting the rest of y'all in the future.
We appreciate y'all being here.
Appreciate
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. If you have any questions, please let us know. Mr. Reynolds has my information, so feel free to reach out with anything we can help with.
Again, thank you so much for staying, and we appreciate you, everything that you're supporting us on. So
Thank you, ma'am.
we will be keeping in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate y'all.
Okay, if they're all done, have a motion to adjourn. And do we need to have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor? We adjourn.